I'm basically using the lathe to do all the assembly. Why? Well, it's centered already. One of the tools that I found, or the adapters that I found extremely convenient for this assembly, is an adapter that allows you to be able to hold another chuck on this side. So basically, let's do it. Let's install it, because I will be needing it. So this will allow me to hold a faceplate, a chuck, whatever. It's the same as this side. So now I've got two supports that are now centered. So one side I will use this, the other side I will use the work in progress, and then put them together. I don't have to worry about centering. All I have to worry about, where do I want it within the joint? Okay? Now, this surface right now has paper on it, because I used it to support the ring. Like this one has paper underneath it. So what you're looking there is the paper that you see there. So that would have to be removed, turned flat, then I've turned this flat, and then glue them together. So I'll start basically the end of the process. Is that okay? Then we'll get into how do we assemble the pieces, how do we center things, and how you prepare the rings as we go along, okay? It's on or it's not turning? It's on.
Is it plugged in?
Okay, let's try again.
Stop button then?
Okay.
Did you push on the stop button, the emergency stop by any chance?
Oh, maybe. Yes, somebody did. I didn't, but
So
somebody
you
did.
have
Okay.
to turn it off?
I don't know, we'll see. Oh, we're good.
Oh.
Now you'll notice that the last ring is not true. Well, it hasn't been turned, so it's turned up to here. Okay, let's see if I can flatten this out by hand, because the guy would have, I would have done it in 30 seconds. But let me explain to you how it is. Is that I would install this faceplate. The guide that I'm talking about is actually a tool rest that has a straight edge and a slide tool that slides on that edge. So I use this to square it to the bed, because this is square to the bed. So then when I cut it with the tool, this will be square to the bed, which is what we want to have. So sanding is eliminated. I used to create a lot of dust in my basement, and plus the fact that you're sanding by hand, you're getting variations across the different areas, because we're not applying pressure equally, or during the time you're sanding, the sandpaper is not cutting as much as it did before. So it gets some variation, which is hard to see, except as you mount the pieces, they tend to, I'm going to exaggerate, they tend to do this. Why? Because of the little offset that occurs on each one. So you're adding errors as you go along. In some cases, you subtract, because if the error is the other way around, well, it'll sort of do this. So to eliminate all that, I developed that guy. I'll bring it in next week. I have to apologize. I forgot. I'll bring it in to show you what it looks like and how it works. Okay? So let's proceed in flattening this out. Let's see where I'm at. I always check, because I don't want to remove more than what I have to. I'm basically waiting for that rumble to sort of disappear. Okay, it's almost gone. I still have some glue here. For this project, I'm using, for the first time, I'm taking a chance, but I think it'll be fine. For the first time, I'm using Type Bond 3. I've been using a regular white glue for this. It's been very good. But the Type Bond 3 has, it's more fluid than the white glue for wood. And so if it's more fluid, when you clamp the pieces together, they tend to get a little closer and it gives you a bit more time to work. Whereas the white glue tends to set a bit sooner and it's hard. By the time you glue in the 16th piece, it's a bit harder. You'll see when I put it together how the steps go. So let's continue this. And just a little bit more here, and I'll check to see how good or how bad it is. For that, what I do is I just mark a few places. And by the way, even when I use my squaring tool, I always mark the ring. Why? Because I'll know when it's all done, when all the marks disappear. Because you may have pieces that are a bit off than the others.
Damiano?
Yes.
Quick question. Are you trying to achieve the same thickness in each ring?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes, but if you're out by a bit, it's not the end of the world. Because when you shape it, you follow the contour. You won't see the difference. But yes, the answer is I always try to obtain the same
you're just eyeballing it?
Pardon?
You're just using your eyeball
for this one, yeah. Yeah, and when I turn it, I actually use a caliper to measure it. I could do that right now. There is designed for 0.6 inches, a little less than 5/8.
You use a caliper?
I got actually I'm a little over. I'm about 620, which is not bad. Now it's 0.620. Okay. If you don't mind, I am going to do, for the purpose of this, a little bit of sanding just to see how I am, because again, I don't have the tool in question. I'll try to minimize. I'm almost there. So let me, if you don't mind, I'll just do a little more. This would not have been necessary with the tool. I am good. Okay, so this comes off. Can I borrow? Yeah, can I borrow the club's key? I forgot to. So I take this out and I'll replace it with this. Same idea, you flatten it out and then you just glue them together. Thank you. Notice I always make it, okay, has to come in tight, so this so you know you're on it. Okay. Now judging this, it's quite where it's well centered. Same thing. And not to discourage you, but when you're doing segmented work, it's repetitive. You do the same thing from each ring to the next. What changes is the size of the ring. We're good. I'll check now to see how square it is. There's a step here. I'm going to have to go a little bit more remove. Okay, let's mark this again.
The ring is glued to a piece of paper there, right?
Pardon me?
That ring is glued on a piece of paper.
That is correct, yes.
And then you remove
Tacked
it.
on, and it pops out. That's what I like to do. That's why I'm doing it in the beginning, so that by the time we do the rest of the process, the glue would have set enough to pull her apart. Okay, sandpaper there. Let's give it a shot. And we have a couple of marks here left, not much, but I'll just insist. See, I avoid all this with the, I'll bring it in next week, I promise I will. Okay, this is good. I'll keep it there. Move this out of the way. Take this out. Where's my... Okay. Now, this vase has no pattern. Colors are random. I mean, I try to disperse the colors as much as I can. So I don't care where my joint is, as long as it falls where the center of the segment falls in the middle of the next joint. So they act like bricks. They hold each other. Okay. Let me just back off a bit. Eyeball it. Check that's okay. It's not quite. Sometimes there's a slight offset from one to the other, but yeah, falls in good. It's pretty good. Okay. So what I usually do is, once I've located a good position, I'll simply mark that position so I can come back to it. Now, applying the glue, very simple. Turn this to minimum. There we go. Hey, what's your name? What happened here? Looks like this lady does not like to go slow. I'll go a little faster. Okay. Fair enough. Let's get close. Let's move this in a bit more. Okay, my mark is there. My other mark is there. Move in. A little zigzag. Make sure the glue gets spread out. And then just press. And let Mother Nature do its rest, the rest. Okay. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to moist this so I can wipe this. And I will need moist cloth for the rest of the work, so might as well do it now. 2 minutes. By the way, you can interrupt me at any time, okay?
Damiano,
Yes.
quick question we're discussing here. You haven't been focused on, obviously, the exterior at all,
Not at all, exactly.
but the interior, you've been hollowing it up.
That is correct. I finish the interior as we go along. I'll wait until I have about three rings installed or put on, and then I'll finish the inside and blend it in with what was there before. And I'm reaching a point now where very soon I will have to be using a steady rest because it's going to start to vibrate. So what I do then is, as I've done here, I will turn the last ring that I find is the one that can take this assembly. Make sure it's turned really well. Sand it down smooth so that your steady rest will hold it nicely in position. And then as it grows, well, in this way, as it grows, well, I do the same thing. I'll turn another ring and move the steady rest there. The outside, I have access, we have access at any time. It's the inside that once it gets bigger, well, you're not going to start hollowing inside. My philosophy is, you finish the inside just on the outside. Some people will say, well, but you don't see it. I don't care. That's my trademark.
How do you center the first ring on the faceplate?
Pardon me?
How do you center the first ring to the faceplate?
How much force you mean?
No, you have this concentricity of the faceplate, and then you have a ring glued onto that faceplate. How do you center that ring?
That's going to be this is the last step. Okay. So we'll get to that. Okay? So now that this is done, let's continue with the real work. Can I work here?
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Huh?
Okay, because you want to leave that like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I brought in a set of. I'm not going to show you how you cut the pieces. The jig is over here. I'll put it on this table for people to look at whenever they could. Or can you put it there? Put it this way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here. Yeah. Make them put it so that they can eyeball it. Basically, it's a jig that will allow you to support the strips of wood at 11¼ degrees, so that when you put them together, you'll end up with 22½ degrees multiplied by 16. You'll get 360 degrees. It's fixed to one angle because I don't want to play with success. It takes a while for it to zero in, but once I did it, I lock it up and it's there to stay. I've got two little screws there, vertical, if you can see. It's to be able to hold the segments as they're being cut, especially those that are small. Any segment that is, let's say, 1 inch or more, you could have the tip of your finger holding it at the same time. But basically, there are two screws anchor it down so you don't risk your fingers next to the blade. The other thing is, if you're doing this type of work, do use a heavy-duty blade. Don't use one of these thin body blades. You're at a minimum 1/8 inch so that the blade doesn't vibrate. Because if it does, the edge of the segment will be waved, and that makes for a joint that needs to be sanded. These joints don't have to be sanded. You only sand the edges to get rid of the fibers that stick out. Okay?
The angle you said is 11.5 degrees?
11 1/4.
11 1/4?
Yeah, 11 1/4. So when you add two together, because two joined together, when you add them together, they add up to 22.5. And there's 16 of them for 360 degrees. Okay? Now here I brought in a set of segments, which really comprises the next level, the next row. Not the next row of this one, but the next row after the other one. The reason is that I've got another one that I will use to put here, but to speed up the gluing process, I'm going to show you one that's finished. Okay? Now, so basically, I put them together like that, just to check the colors, how they fit. Very simple. If the colors are too close together, like the same colors together, well, you move them around until you're happy. You want to disperse them as best as you can.
So those segments are just a little bit longer than the previous ones?
It depends. They could be close to the same size. Oh, but I forgot. I'm sorry.
You're working from a flange?
No, hold on. Yes, that's what I'm sorry. Take this, pass it along. I give you half in one direction, half the other direction. I don't know if you're able to see anything since it's dark. And move around. If you guys want to attempt to do it, the plans are there. Okay, so basically the length of the segment is determined by what the curve is going to be like. And obviously the thickness of the segment determines that as well. So they both have to be together. Okay, and what I do after this is I prepare a big hose clamp.
Damiano,
Yes.
The way I do it, just so that beginners will know, cutting the segments on the jig, I always mark one side so that when you're assembling the pieces together like that, you offset, you put one upside down, one right side up, one upside down, one right side up.
Well, prior to that, what I do is I make sure that the blade is at 90 degrees to the cutting surface, so I don't have to worry about which side it goes where. But you're right, yeah, you do that, you mark. If the blade is exactly 90 degrees, then no matter which one, that's to offset a slight angle offset that may happen due to the cutting. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't mention it because I took it for granted that the blade has to be 90 degrees. Okay, at this point in time, I'm put together. Okay, now that I know its position, let me just check very quickly the colors. You can see that they're, it's not bad. There's more dark ones here than there, so maybe I'll take this one and switch over with this one. Again, I try to make it as random as possible. That's all right. This is a little dark here. I'll take one of these and replace it with this one. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, now that I have the position, I'll just loosen this up. Take it out, loosen it a couple more because with the glue in between, it may be a little bit bigger, so you don't want to waste time trying to put this in. Okay, put this over here, and put this here. Now, move everything back. Okay, this is where the fun begins. Okay, here we go. So, a piece of wood, in my case it's not wood, it's coriander, it doesn't matter. A piece of wood. Wobble glue. Take 2 pieces. Simple. Now what's on the other disc is exactly this, except the disc is bigger. It's a homemade faceplate for larger diameters. And a bit off here, but now I'm going to move these here because they're going to fall. Okay. Now I like to warn people who want to do this. You better have patience, otherwise do something else. One of our members, if you remember Rohit, he made a comment once, said, well, yeah, but you're not doing much turning. That's right. Oh, then what's the use? Well, he tried to do it, he gave up. Okay, here we go, we're in. I take that clamp back, put it back in. You can see just a little bit bigger, but we'll slip it in. Here we go. Now this is the time I really don't want to waste any time. You want to get it tightened as fast as possible because the glue is soft and it tends to slip. The joints tend to slip, which means they'll fall in, they'll anchor themselves and set themselves properly. Okay, next thing you do before you tighten really hard, you pull them all out. So the point, the outside corners are all even. Okay? Now you start tightening a bit more, not too much. Okay? Next step is you take a small hammer and you just tap them down. Okay? Now you tighten this a lot more now. There we go. And give it a little more of a yank. Okay. Now that it's done, this is securely in place. You can hold it, swing it, whatever you like. It's not going to move. I wipe this clean because there's glue all over the place. Okay, I just pass my hand over it to remove any excess water. And then I just go bang, bang, bang. On the back side, the side that was already with glue. And, sorry, I take that piece of paper.
Use just brown craft paper?
Paper, newspaper, you ain't up your life, as long as it's separate, it's a little separate. I use this brown paper because I can buy it as a roll and a lot more convenient.
Okay.
I bought a roll about, I think it was 6 years ago. I still have more than half of it. So it lasts a long time. So once done, it goes there to wait for it to set, and then you have to center it to the thing. So I'm going to accelerate that by putting this one down and taking one that's already set. Okay? What I do here first, well, let's clean up first. You know what? No, I can keep the glue, it's so good. So I'll take this and cut off the excess. Okay. And I'll explain to you why I'll do this. Because I need the edges clear of anything to center the ring onto the disc. Anybody care for some music? Okay, now we bring this back. And there we go. Now here I use the calipers. I'll center it the best I can visually. Then I'll just measure one edge. Check the opposite side. Obviously it's too long. That looks good. Probably too long here. Once you got once you have the four corners, if you like, with the same distance, you assume pretty much that the rest are good. You can verify, but basically they'll be good. Okay, so good, good, and good. Perfect. Okay, we're done. Now, the next step is this. To find the center. On the face plates, I have a 1/8 inch hole. Just find that hole. Okay? There you go. Okay? Now, if I try to take this and glue it back centered that way, it's a 10-year-old hole, so it'll tend to break or move because it's too weak there. You move left or right and it'll damage the whole center. So what I do now is I reinforce that by putting a little bit of glue here on a piece of centered piece of wood with a hole the same size as the piece of wood there. It's actually, you know what it is? It's one of those skewers for making shish kebabs. That's what it is. It's bamboo. There you go. Let it set. Once set, this is now firm, and you'll glue the back side. Now I put very little glue behind this thing, so it'll set in about 2 minutes. Okay? Yeah, this is stuck now. So we do the same thing as we did when we glued this piece onto the paper. Okay, you take this out, turn it upside down, bang, 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 bang. If you don't have any glue left here, well, use the glue bottle. Not a lot, just a few little ticks here and there. Okay, make this longer, find your center, bang, down, press this down. And you let it set. Once you set that, you'll end up with what I had here. You remove the piece of the stick that's there. You remove the center block just to rip it off, and you'll end up with the piece that I had here. Again, you turn it flat, turn this piece flat, and you glue it together and start the next one. Very simple process. Now this one's been there for what, about 20 minutes or so, maybe half an hour? Okay, well, let's see what happens. There you go. So now you have what I had when I began. And that's basically what the process is all about. Now, that's the physical end of the process. Before all this happens, you gotta do what I have there on paper. You have to design it, like what you see, like what you did, then partition it, determine what the size of the segments are, and go ahead and do it. The segments are, you know, you use a jig. You have to have some kind of a guide or a jig to cut the pieces accurately. That's the key word. It's got to be accurate. And that's it. If you can do that, then assembly becomes easy, just as I did now. Any other questions? Yes?
Is there a ratio that you're looking at, as it, based on your plan, like a half an inch wider or something like that?
It's strictly up to the designer. It's not a question of...
There's no fixed number, no?
There's no fixed number. You make a drawing, you say, what do you want to make? You want to make a bowl? Yeah. So be it. You take a bowl, you start drawing the bowl. Once you like what you see, then you give it thickness. You decide. You want to give it half an inch bowl, you want a 1/4 inch bowl, 3 inch bowl, you decide. You give it the thickness. Once you get the thickness, then you say, what kind of wood do I have? Okay, the stock I have is a 3/4 inch stick. Take into consideration losses from the cuts and all. Let's say you'll design for 5/8. So, you slice up your bowl at 5/8 inch ring size increments. And then from there, you determine from projection, what is the size of your segment. Assuming you're doing 16 segments, you do that. If it's 12 segments, you separate your circle by 12. And you get the segment you want. Once you have that segment, well then, you just cut. This one, you can cut all the pieces. When you assemble it, you have your bowl or your vase or whatever it is that you make. Simple? Okay, now this is random. Random colors. No matter where you put them, it's strictly a random situation. Now, if you want to put a particular pattern on your bowl or your vase or whatever, then on your paper, you'll determine what is the pattern you want. And then you say, okay, if this is the pattern I have, again, I don't know what it is, but if that's the pattern you have, well, it requires 2 segments here, a space there, another segment there, white or pale or dark segment, and then you cut your pieces accordingly, and you assemble them accordingly. And then when you put them together, this is the process of putting them together, but you will have to take care of how you position your colors to arrive at the pattern that you designed for. But what I want to emphasize here is assembly can be made very easy once the pieces are cut. Okay? If you use this procedure here. Some may say, well, I don't have a one-way lathe. It doesn't matter. I mean, I believe one-way makes fittings or adapters for other lathes. You're inquired. The important thing is that you have the same support on one end as the other end, so that you can attach two faceplates, two chucks, two whatever. They'll come in together centered, and you don't have to break your head about, you know, which direction or how do you something. Very often when you put two rings together, you got to hold them firmly in place, otherwise they'll slide, because there's liquid underneath it. Unless the liquid, you know, once the liquid is gone, then it stays. But in the meantime, it tends to move around. This one doesn't matter; it will move around. So there's an advantage using this particular process. Any other questions?
Excuse me, is this jig is a homemade thing or is
Yeah,
it a commercial?
you can. This one here,
Yes.
it's a homemade. It's aluminum, so aluminum will be cut in a table saw with a blade with carbide tips, just like wood, except slower. You go gently. Okay? It won't damage your blade. It's aluminum can be cut like wood. Some of the other parts can be metal, if I may. The parts that are metal is basically these rods that bind everything together, these two, because I found out, see, this is a piece of extruded.
Can you bring it there?
Sure.
You can't see anything.
Yeah, of course. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, it's in there. Now this is a piece of extruded U-channel. Okay. Now when I bought this, I assumed that the U-channel was square to the bottom. It's not. It's slightly opened up. So after a few failures in the assembly of the pieces, I realized that there has to be something wrong with the squareness of this. So when I measured it, it definitely was out of whack. So I took this and I actually passed it through a saw. I didn't have a milling machine, so I passed it through the saw and it worked well. But like I said, do not use a saw that has a thin body, minimum 1/8 inch. If it can get thicker, better still, because it doesn't vibrate. Okay. Now once I had that, then I went along with the assembly. I have the pivoting point is here. The slides. The slides were made according to my table saw distances, and I worked backwards, meaning I put in the slides in the tracks. I set my plate more or less square to that. It's not important, but more or less square to the tracks. And then as you view the track on the side, you will make your first hole while still in the saw. You make the first hole, second hole. You take them out, tap them, you have to tap them, you get a little bit of machine to them, tap them, and then you put in a screw to hold them in place. Then you go to the opposite side and do the same thing. Once you work on the spot, well, it becomes aligned. There could be a little bit offset, some differences, so what you do is you loosen the screws, work with it until it slides easily, and then retighten gently each one in turn until it slides. You have almost no lateral play, which allows for better cuts to you reproduce the cuts easier. Because if this thing moves, forget it. You're wasting your time. This must not move. It's got a slide knife, but it must not move. Okay? Now, that's all well said and done. Now you have to come up with the angle. So I took a protractor and I measured it with a protractor roughly 11 1/4. How do you think I measured a 1/4 inch? In nutsack, I don't measure a 1/4 inch angle. So then I went close, drew the line, and I set this in place. But on this end, I have a groove that allows for adjustment. And then at this end, I have a clamp to be able to clamp it to its position. So every test, 16 pieces. And you cut the 16 pieces, you check, it doesn't fit. The angle is too big, you gotta reduce the angle. You take this and you nudge it a bit and do repeat. It took me approximately 7, 8 tries at 16 pieces each before I more or less zeroed in. Now once you zero in, you lock it and you don't touch it no more. This is not wood, it's aluminum, so it's stable. The first one I made was the same thing but made of wood. It lasted for maybe 6 months. After that my pieces wouldn't fit anymore because it moved around and I lost the alignment. So I said, no, I can't take this. So once this was done and it worked well, then I set in a slide to be able to adjust, accurately the spacing. There's a screw here that allows to really move for smaller amounts. When I have to measure my first piece, I'll take the caliper. Since the dimensions have been established, I open up my caliper to that dimension, lock it, and then I'll move this until it meets the edge of the saw blade, the curve. And if there's any offset, while you adjust, you nudge a bit to adjust that. Once your piece is cut, you verify, it's too long, until you got your zero in. So essentially, when I cut my pieces, I'm not off by more than 5 to 10 thousandths of an inch. Some people will say, you must be kidding. No, I'm not kidding, because you take each piece, you slide it through here. If it fits and there's no play, well, you're there. You may be off by 5,000. Who cares? 5,000 of an inch times 16 is 48 thousandths of an inch. It's less than a 16th all around. So it's not bad. And I've been measuring my pieces, and they're well within. I'll give you an example. The one we just glued here is piece number 11. And if you look at the drawing, ring number 11 should be 7.569. That would be 7 and 9/16. This I can take out now. This I can take out. I don't have a measuring tape, but I can assure you it's within to less than a 16th inch.
Quick question for you,
yeah.
Damiano. The location where your wood is actually being cut by the saw blade, is it on the top side of that?
What do you mean?
Well, the piece of wood that you're cutting to fit each angle, does it fit on the top side of the?
Well, it fits here.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Fits here, and maybe I'll turn it this way. Okay, it fits here, and the blade curve comes here. Also, I have, for safety, I made some T-nuts that slide into the tracks. Some saws may or may not have a slot that accommodates a T-nut. If they do, it's great, because you slide this in, you set your saw blade height, then you move this forward until the saw blade covers the thickness of the segment that you're cutting. Okay? Then you put your stops so that you can't go any further. Otherwise, you'll end up ruining your jig. Yeah. So that's a safety feature. And then I found afterwards, holding it by hand with these worked well, but this tend to flex also. So I anchored them down across here. So that took care of that problem. And then to stabilize this, because when I'm clamping, it has a force against it. Well, I put these rods here, so make sure that they don't move either. So it's all to be able to reproduce the cut as accurately as possible. And as it stands right now, I can cut a 16 segment and do no sanding whatsoever, except for the edges to remove the fibers that usually stick out after the cut. So this works well. Then after this came what I call the squaring tool that would eliminate the sanding process whatsoever. When I started out making segmented work, I used to sand every ring on a horizontal sand disc that I made purposely for my shop. I built the disc, and I built the motor and the drive, everything that goes, so that I can cover it up. My table is about this thick, so there's a cover on top. And what I found out was making a lot of dust. So I said, no, that's not good. I have to come up with something better. So I came up with this, and it works well. I'll bring it in next week with a slide that allows you to cut a square without creating any dust. So basically, I traded dust for shadings. Yeah.
Originally, a few years ago, when you did a demonstration on this, you had a tool that held all the segmented turnings in place, was made of aluminum as well. As I
That's a long, long time ago.
Yes,
That was too troublesome. It worked well. It climbed to pieces like you wouldn't believe. But it was too long, too slow. Basically, it was a star. A 16 segmented star with each one is a rod threaded to close into the, and that was too long. It was too long to adjust, too long. But it really climbed well though. Simply too long to adjust. I abandoned. Now I'm using the knobs for something else.
You got a new pattern.
Well, they're useful, so all the knobs are all handmade. Any other questions? Yeah.
You were taking orders to make slides?
No, I don't take orders. But I'd be glad to show you in detail how, what to do. I'd be more than happy. The same thing with the design. If somebody wants to know how I work it out, I'd be more than happy to show you. I use AutoCAD to help me make the drawing. Not because AutoCAD is the drawer for the piece. I do the drawing. But AutoCAD gives me all the dimensions, all the angles, and all the, so I don't have to worry about what the size of the segments are. I'll let the computer do that. But for the design, I do that. I do design myself. Sometimes I cheat. How do I cheat? Well, I go in the net and I go into vases or bowls, and you get pictures, all sorts of pictures. Oh, I like that one. I take it and copy it in the file. Oh, that one, copy it in the file. Then eventually I go back and say, I'd like to do something that shape. I'll grab it, copy it on AutoCAD, make an outline, fix it up a bit, cut it up, and I make it up. Yeah.
What did you do before AutoCAD?
I wasn't turning. I knew AutoCAD already. I remember at McGill I took drawing as part of the engineering course, and at that time, in the 1970s, the drawing was done by a board, ruler, and so I do remember the projections, horizontal, vertical, whatever. So I use that same approach to make my segments, to determine the segment. Any other question? Okay.